So I want to have a conversation about the book of Enoch, and more importantly, the calendar of Enoch. Now, this show is not here to test your faith in the calendar. This is not here to test your faith at all. This is a conversation. This is a mature conversation that we need to have. And I want to set the stage, first and foremost, right? I want to set the stage. Where are we? We here? Yeah, let me share. I'm going to unzoom here, and I want to set the stage, okay, in regards what we're going to be talking about today. So kind of let's we're going to have a conversation about the book of Enoch, and specifically the calendar of Enoch, right? And let me bring this down a little bit. Okay. And peace and blessings to the brothers that are joining me, right? Around 2013, I got a phone call from Ricard when I was with the church in Lawyer, I believe. I remember I was right outside. I was working, and I was right outside a doctor's office, and I just finished coming out the bank, depositing something, and they called me and said, "Gabar, we have to change the calendar." And we went into the book of Enoch, the book of Jubilee, and say, "Hey," and then we began to do some research to figure out how to implement the book of or the calendar of Enoch. And so when we looked at the calendar, it was clear. And when I looked at the calendar and I kind of figure out how it works, I fell in love with it instantly. I was like, this is so simple. This was like right there in front of our faces. Why we didn't, see this before? It was exciting times. So when I began to, because I'm a type of guy that when I come across new information, I try to prove myself wrong. I try to find kinks in my armor. So after that feeling went down, I would say within a good 3 weeks to a month later, I was able to exhale and breathe and say, okay, let me look at this thing objectively. And let me try to find this, scoffers, because at that time within the Israelite community, and I think for the most part, even now, the Gathering Christ Church is the only church that was following the Enoch calendar, the 364, which I love, by the way. And I'm going to get into, why I fell in love with it and why we should not throw it away. And I'm not doing this conversation to throw it away. But when I began to say, okay, if I want to prove the Enoch calendar wrong, where will I go? So I began to say, Enoch calendar exposed or consistent, or inconsistency with the Enoch calendar. And there were many things, obviously. There are scriptures that gives perception that we were following the moon. Specifically in the Apocrypha, it talks about the moon. And now I believe the moon is involved somehow. We're just trying to figure out how that is. And even the stars. But specifically dealing, with the 464-day cycle that in the book of Jubilee, it was clear. We cannot alter it. We cannot dislodge it. We cannot change it from year to year, because if we do, we would dislodge the feast days. We would, the Jubilee years and so forth, so on. So the book of Jubilee is clear. And the book of Jubilee, it claims that it was the angels that were speaking to Moses was speaking directly to Moses. So there were arguments out there that the book of Enoch or the calendar of Enoch was being followed during the time of Enoch, but during the time of Moses, it was changed, right? And then eventually became a situation that the book of Jubilee became in question because that book actually spoke to Moses, and it was telling Moses, to tell the people not to forget the 364-day cycle, because it would be dislodged if we go and we add or we start following the moon. So it's very anti-moon scripture, and I got it. I get it. But the biggest problem in the book of Enoch that I found out, and this is something that was commonly known even before we decided to deal with the situation. And I see a Georgia number. I think that's probably Trent. Trent, I'm gonna call you back. Just hold tight. I'm gonna take some phone calls because I want to set the format. I want to play some videos. I want to kind of set the whole gamut here. So the 364 became also a problem, although I loved it. Although it was a thing that hold on 2 seconds. Make sure I okay. All right, let me see where I'm at. If I'm live, it should be live, right? Yeah, okay. 2 seconds, folks. Let me just do this. Make sure. Okay. So the 364, it says, I came out, let me see, Brother Darrell says, I have come to find out later that there are other small churches that follow the Enoch calendar. You see, it's not the only one. You are right. There are groups out there that follow the book of Enoch. GOCC is not the only one. But within the Israelite community, I think they are the largest. They follow the, and I think they kind of made the Enoch calendar as a popular thing. But you're right, other people do follow the book of Enoch in the calendar of Enoch. So you stand corrected. You are correct. However, I want to have a conversation specifically about the 364 versus the 365, because when I began to do research on the book of Enoch and the calendar of Enoch in particular, the reason many experts said that it is an imperfect calendar, or the issue of it is that is a day and a quarter too short. The Gregorian calendar was set up to kind of keep in line with the season, right? Although it was the first month was changed from March because the Caesar calendar, Caesar Augusta, I think, was before the Gregorian. If I'm not mistaken, I think it began on March or in springtime. Right? That's right. September, although it is the 9th month, the word September comes from the word 7. It's supposed to be the 7th month. November is it's the 9th month, although it's the 10th? November is the 10th, I think. I forget. Right? And because they kept the names, although they changed the date when the year starts. Right? So the Gregorian calendar is no small Hebrew Israelite church follow it. There's just not a 9. Yeah, so there's a few here and there and so forth, so on. But the biggest problem that the Enoch calendar has, the most expert says, is that the cycle of the sun goes around 365 days in a quarter. So what happened is that when we keep the Enoch calendar and we look at when is equal day, equal night in the year 2013, and that's when we began to follow the Enoch calendar. That's the first year. That was the first Passover we began to follow the Enoch calendar. And I remember that year because that's Morris Stoudemire was in. He came to visit the church, and he came by the Passover, and I remember speaking to him briefly about it, and saying that yes, we follow the Enoch calendar. Is a new revelation or a new understanding because we accept these extra biblical books, and the reason why, I remember being excited because I liked the fact that the Passover lands on a Saturday. Most feasts lands on a Saturday, excuse me. It kind of kept that understanding. And it made most sense because on the 14th day of the year, right? Because the 14th day of the year, dealing with the lunar calendar, because I believe the way the Jewish community follow it now, they do acknowledge the Enoch, not the Enoch, when the day is short or the day is as long as the night, the equinox. They look for the sliver of the moon after the vernal equinox. So once you see the vernal equinox, you acknowledge it, right? And once you acknowledge that you are equal day, equal night, then you start looking for the moon. When you start seeing the first sliver is when you start counting the day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, all the way to day 14, and that's how you keep the Passover. The problem with that is that, and you guys can look it up today, is that the sliver sometimes is not visual on the day there it is, the sliver is out. It may be cloudy, it may be fog, and it cannot be seen. So what they do in Israel, and Brother Slow-Mo, if you listen to the show, maybe you could chime in, you could call in, let me know. Text me through to WhatsApp, and then I could maybe send you the link. And I want to know if you know anything about this, since you are in Israel. And I believe in Israel, I don't know if they still do it today, but they keep 2 feast days, 2 Passover, 2 days of first fruits, and 2 days of I believe of ingathering. Those 3 major feast days. They keep it 2 because just in case the sliver was off, or the person who said the sliver was they sold the sliver, or sometimes they didn't see the sliver, but the sliver was out. They got a whole complicated situation. Now, when you look at the lunar calendar, it has its issues. Okay, so we have to look at this objectively and fairly, because the Enoch calendar has some issues, and the lunar calendar has some issues. Like, for instance, when they begin to follow the moon, they realize that even, days after, or I believe is the day when I was speaking to a Jewish rabbi about this. I believe he told me, if anybody knows this, just let me know, that is the day after the vernal equinox, or the closest day when they see the sliver after the vernal equinox. The problem with the sliver, you cannot find that in biblical writings. When is the first day of the moon cycle? The sliver, some people say, is when it's fully dark, when you cannot see the moon, when you cannot see because the slivers is the angle of the sun where it's shining, it shines, so you start waning, and you start seeing more of the fullness of the moon. But a lot of those calculations came from they assuming that's the best way to do it. And the book of Enoch talks about the sliver, so there could be something there. However, though, the problem with the lunar calendar is that they noticed after a few years, the lunar calendar it was coming a month too soon in regards of the new year. So every fourth year, they have 13 months within the Jewish calendar. So certain years have 12, other years has 13, because that itself is a problem, that the moon, the cycle goes around 29 days or 29 and a half days. And sometimes there's certain months that it goes around 28 days. There's certain months that you see a full moon twice in a month. So I wanna let's see here. I wanna share, and I got some calls, folks. Just hold on, just hold tight. I think that may be, I don't know who this is, but let's wait here, because I didn't put the Zoom link, so I want to share this with you guys real quick. So let's deal with the Enoch calendar real quick. Let me put this over here. Okay, where is what happened to the? Okay, 2 seconds, folks. Where is? Okay, I see what's going on here. All right, let's. Okay, I see what's going on here. Okay, we're good. We're good. Sorry, folks. I apologize. Let me move this over here a little better, for you guys to see it. Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm sharing my screen here, and I want to go into the book of Enoch, or the calendar of Enoch, for the people who may not understand what it is. I'm in the Apocrypha. It says the book of Enoch, or the Enoch calendar, is an ancient calendar described in the pseudographical books of Enoch. It divides the year into seasons of exactly 13 weeks. Each season consists of 30 days, months, following by one 31-day month, and 30-day 1 month, ending the season. So the Enoch's year consists of exactly 364. The Enoch calendar was probably given to Enoch by the angel Uriel. 4 named days, inserted as the 31 days of every third month were named instead of numbers, which placed them outside of the numbering. The book of Enoch, which is true, the book of Enoch gives the count of 2,912 days for 8 years, which divides out to exactly 364 days per year. This specifically excluded the periodic intercreation, meaning I'm not pronouncing that word, meaning this does not include any leap year or any additional years. John Bratt. Now look up John Bratt he's an expert dealing with calendars. So looked up at his work. This is what he says on the book of the Enoch calendar. It says the calendar expert John Bratt wrote that the Enoch calendar has been criticized as hopelessly primitive, because with only 364 days, it shows it was short. It would get out of sync with the season so quickly. In 25 years, in only 25 years, the season would arise an entire month earlier. Since it grows this discrepancy, however, mainly indicate that the method of intercalation, meaning when you add different days or what have you, has been omitted. Pratt points out that by adding an adding an extra week, at the end of every 7 year or sabbatical year, okay, and then adding an additional extra week to every fourth sabbatical year, or every 28 years, the calendar will be as uncorrupted as the Gregorian calendar, meaning it would be on point. So he kind of do like a math equation there in the bottom. It also says there is some evidence that the group who writes were found in the Quran used the so there is in the Quran calendar, it does mention that there is also a 364. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Okay, it says here the Hebrew calendar is also called the Jewish calendar in the lunar solar calendar used today for Jewish religion. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's the Quran. I'm trying to see what the Quran says. Okay, here we go. On top, see also Quran calendar. It says there are about 20 different texts from Quran which deals with a 364 solar calendar. They are mainly very fragmented, so that calendar is not completely understood. However, it is significant different from the Babylonian lunar calendar, which involves into 364 days Hebrew calendar. Yeah, because they go by the lunar, so every year the lunar they got to add a month every third year, every leap year, I believe. Okay, so and a lot of people may not know this. The second book of Enoch, which is called the Secret of Enoch, or the second book of Enoch, also known as the Secret of Enoch. Okay, it says as a second book, also known as the second book of Enoch. It's also known as the Syriac Enoch, Slavic Enoch, or the Secret Book of Enoch. It's a pseudographical text that in the Apocrypha, it described the ancient, it goes into different things, right? I think it goes back, it was discovered in the early Middle Ages, but it goes back to, it says, some scholars dispute that second Enoch is undefined Jewish sect, while others regard it as the work of the first century Christian. Some consider it a later Christian work. It is not included in either the Jewish or the Christian canon, right? So the second book of Enoch, I want to read you guys something, because I was looking into the second book of Enoch, and let me see if I could find it. Hold on 2 seconds. Let me see if I could find it. Oh, no. Sorry. Okay. Okay, there it is. Okay. So the word, let me see. Let me if I could find the 300. So, right. So I'm in chapter. This is the book of Enoch, or the second book of Enoch, right? The Secret of Enoch. Let's see here. Okay. Let me see. Okay, 365. Okay, this is both 365 books. Wait a minute, 2 seconds. Okay, yeah, 365 books. Years, the first day of the first. Okay, this is okay. I'm in. Let's see here. Angel, 300 angels. Whatever this is, one I'm looking for. Okay, here we go. So this is chapter, I believe 16. I believe it's 16. My numbers are a little out of whack. Hebrew, not Hebrew, by Roman numerals are a little off. So I think it's 16. So let me read this chapter, because even the second book of Enoch, which was discovered much later, but some fragments are going back to the 1st century. So there was a second book of Enoch. The one we have now, is it correct? We don't know. But this is what it says. It says, and they took Enoch to the west. So I guess this is the author writing. So this is Enoch speaking. It says, and again, those men led me away in the western part and showed me 6 great gates openly corresponding to the eastern gate, opposite to where the sun set, according to the number of the days, 365 and a quarter. 365 and a quarter. So why is, and I think it mentions it, and it does mention that let me read this again. This is I believe, well, that was 14. This is 16, I believe. So chapter 16 says, and they took Enoch again, placed him in the east of the quarters of the moon. So it says, those men show me the other course of the moon, 12 gates crowned from the west to the east, by which the moon goes in and out of the customary times. It goes in at the 3rd gate to the western place of the sun, by the 1st gate which 31 days exactly, by the 2nd gate 31 days exactly, by the 3rd gate 30 days exactly, by the 4th with 30 days exactly, by the 5th 31 days exactly, by the 6th 31 days exactly, by the 7th 30 days exactly, by the 8th 31 days exactly perfectly, by the 9th it goes on and on and on, and it says and by 11, which 31 days exactly, by the 12, which is 28 days exactly, 28 days. So it looks like they were showing Enoch differing courses of the moon. It looks like there may be different courses of the sun, and there may be different courses of the moon. And it says, and it goes through the western gates in the order of numbered by the number of the eastern, and accomplished the 365 and a quarter days of the solar year. So even this one acknowledged that the sun goes around 365 days, as science shows. And it says, while the lunar year has 354, and there are went into it 12 days of the solar cycle, which are the lunar aspect of the whole year. And I think, let me see, there's a mentioning time. Okay, it goes into the books and so forth, so on. Right? Okay, there's another version of the book of Enoch. Let me see. It goes in. You can see here, this reads a little different. Same thing. It says, does likewise the western gate, in according with their cycle, and according to the number of the eastern gate, thus she goes and complete the solar year 365 and a quarter, but the lunar year is 364, making 12 months, right, shorter, I guess. All right, so it looked like they knew what they would, that somebody in ancient world understood that the 365 quarter days also. It says here, why would Enoch 1 and 2nd Enoch bit soon different in the calendar? This is why I believe it is a Gregorian record to uphold. Okay. Okay. The resurrection of the Chaldean calendar is my opinion based on research. So yeah, so I see a lot of you guys done some research here, and I appreciate you guys. And I don't want this to to test anybody's faith here. But I'm convinced that we don't know for sure how to answer these questions. I like the Enoch calendar. I believe that eventually we're going to get an off season. That's why when we first, in 2013, the Passover landed on March 25th. That's Saturday. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, I believe the year 2019 was the Jubilee year, if we're going to go with the calculation. So to stay in sync, I would have added a year, 2019. I would have added an extra year, an extra week, and that would have been the Jubilee year. And if we would have kept that, we would have been having the Passover at March 25th. Now, for my scholarship, I have seen, and there's always been debate, when was Christ conceived or when he was born. I believe for my study, he was born in the Passover, or right before, around the Passover, around March 25th. Now, some scholars says that the way they came out with the December 25th is they counted 9 months from March 25th, from December 25th. That is 9 months, and that's how they came to that calculation. And the people may not know this, within the Hebrew calendar, if that would have been correct, Christ would have been born around the time of the Hanukkah season. That would have, because people may not know this, on the 12th month of the 25th day of the 12th month is the day of the feast, or that week is the beginning of the feast of Hanukkah, because it was in the winter. And you can find that story in the book in the Jubilee, not the Jubilee, in the Apocrypha, right? So, and when you go into these writings, and when you go into these teachings, right, and these are the issues that sometimes you have with the writings, and teachings in regards, or what. Let me show you guys. Let me see here. The Enoch calendar, the ancient calendar, 13 weeks. Okay, I read that already. Okay, I want to show you guys the problem with continually or ignoring that particular scripture in regards of, or ignoring that particular day. Right now, it's not being affected. We're not being affected by it. Although I'm pretty sure the brothers and sisters that are with GOCC notice that every year the Passover comes a little quicker, right? And every year the Feast of Ingathering with the Tabernacle Feast, that comes in a little quicker too. And it's going to get warmer in the Feast of Tabernacle, although it's supposed to be around the time of the fall. It's going to get a little warmer because we're getting off season. Every year is a day. We miss a year. We miss a year. We miss a year. We miss a year. I mean, miss a day, miss a day, miss a day, miss a day. So, so in 2013, if anybody still collects the calendars, in that first year calendar, if you still have it, check for me. I believe it was 2013, it was March 25th, right? March 25th. The actual year, or the actual cycle of the sun every year goes around March 17, 16, give or take. The problem with that is, but when you go into the Gregorian calendar, it does a cycle, and that's what I believe when you start looking at the cycle. Like if the calculation would have been right, or my calculation in 2019, and we would have added a week in the Jubilee year, we would have since 2013 to 2013 to 2019. That 2019 would have been the Jubilee year. You would have added a week then. And folks want to call in, you're more than welcome to call in. The number is 267-358-0879. If I'm missing something, I got something wrong, it's what research you have gotten with this, because I remember when I first saw this, I said, okay, this is going to be the thing that the scoffers are going to go against the church, GOCC, the church I was with. Right now, I'm at a point in my life that these things are less important to me than they used to be. Okay, let me reframe that statement. It is extremely important to me to know when is the feast days and when is the proper calendar. But I have humbled myself and I have accepted that perhaps we may not never know. We may know when Christ gets here. So, that's where we are right now. So if we want to know for sure, we have to find a scripture that explains why the cycle of the sun goes 365 in a quarter, right? That means every 4 year, you got an extra day. That's where you got the leap year thing, things of that nature, and so forth, so on. I see a number. Let's see who's calling in. I think this may be, let's see here. This may be Trent, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Peace. This is Brother Trent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got you. Okay, I know you want to come in early. Were you coming in also on Zoom? Was that you trying to come in on Zoom as well?
No.
No? Okay, it could have been somebody
No.
else. So let me fix this real quick. Okay. And folks, I'm going to put the link below for you guys. If you guys want to come in through Zoom, you're more than welcome as well. So Trent, what do you think about this, man? Do you think that this thing is something that we will eventually figure out? Can we figure this out? Does it matter? Should we go back to the lunar? Should we stay with the solar? Should we create our own version, or does it matter? What say you?
I think just people should just get right within themselves. I don't care about the calendar, to be quite frank. Why? Because who cares? If you're not right within yourself, right? Who cares what day the Sabbath is or whatever the case may be? If you're not, like, I'm a very sinful man, and I do a lot of sinful shit, okay? And I want all the listeners, same shit, whatever they're doing right now, where they smoking weed while listening or drinking or whatever the case may be, right? If God could just open up the roofs on everybody's households and see how people really get down, one of the last things we need to be discussing is like the calendar.
I hear what you're saying. However, though, but let me just say this. There are some people, and I know this from experience, that this thing is extremely important to them, and it's so important to them that they haven't achieved the spiritual maturity that someone like what you're saying about what really matters, getting right and things of that nature. And sometimes, people get caught up with we're the home of the truth, or we got it right, or you got it wrong. And I want to have this conversation to kind of tell people it's okay not to know what is the proper calendar. It doesn't challenge, your leaders, or it doesn't undermine your leaders, or it doesn't undermine the church you're with. But these are conversations that we need to have, because if someone is not spiritually mature enough and they come across this, it could test their faith, because I've seen it personally. You understand? and you are 100,000% right. But when I remember when I was with GOCC, I got certain emails about this, and I remember having a conversation with Ricard about this. And I remember I was concerned about this, not necessarily concerned to the point that this is going to be we have to throw everything the book of Enoch, the book of Jubilee away, not to that degree. But I was concerned that this, scoffers can be out. Look, you guys are off. Look, the 365, 264, yada yada yada, because it's important. And one thing that I was doing research. I didn't have time to get all the information, but I remember when I was reading the absurd or the writings of Eusebius, that he was commenting on the conversation they were having about when to celebrate Easter. Now, Easter was synonymous with the Passover, right? Mm-hmm. And they were going back and forth, and they were saying that even the Jewish people don't agree on the calendar. So this looks like this problem is an ancient problem. It's been around it's nothing new under the sun. And,
right.
The Constantines and those folks, they decided to keep it, I believe, 2 weeks or the second Sunday after the vernal equinox, if I'm not mistaken. But they also added that if it lands in the same week as the Jewish Passover, they got to push it a week. It was like they were very anti-Israelite. Anything Jewish or anything that could be similar to the Torah or what the Jews were doing, they discarded. So, and I'm using that as an example.
Why?
Well, I think they were very anti-Semite. I think they were very we don't want to be associated with anything Israelite. And of course,
why though? Why would they not want to be associated with anything Israelite?
Well, my theory is that when the Romans began to convert to this Christian religion, I think it was the Roman arrogance to say, okay, we'll be a Christian, but we're going to do it our way. And I think they began to just establish this authority, because you got to remember the Romans, before they became Christians, they were like, we're the gods of the world. So I think they carried that over, and they began to just add their own understanding. And I think that's the birth of what you call replacement theology, that now the Pope is the vicar of Christ. The Jews don't matter. The land don't matter. We could establish our own situation, and and they didn't want, and they had this attitude that the Jews killed the Messiah, so therefore they forever curse. And they came in with that anti-Israelite sentiment from the beginning, and so all that was part of it. But what I wanted to add is that they did even admitted that even the Jews did not agree on the calendar, and that is true, because when you look at within the time of the first century, many scholars argue which calendar was being kept in the time of Christ. Now, many scholars are agreeing that the calendar that the Jewish people follow today with the sliver and all that, it would have been almost impossible to follow back then, because we didn't have emails and phones. And so to people to know when to come in with the sliver, it will be hard to follow the calendar as it's today. So many scholars agree that it had to have been some form of fixed calendar and giving strength to the Enoch calendar. Christ was crucified on what they call Good Friday, and he was buried on Friday, 3:00, and the Passover was right after that. They were getting ready for the Passover, and that Passover,
Monday, 3:00.
Yeah, so
when he rose,
right. So we do know that year, the calendar, wherever calendar they were following, it does not disprove the Enoch calendar. It does not disprove the lunar calendar, because there's certain Passover that it does land on a Saturday. It all depends. It's inconsistent to the week, but we do know that Christ, Christ it doesn't discount the Enoch calendar in the story of Christ, if that makes sense, because he was the Passover landed on Saturday, which it lands every Saturday with if you use the Enoch calendar. So,
the reason, like, I'll be honest with you, and I'm a bit of a mathematician. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
No one has it right as far as the calendar is concerned. The reason why I do deal with what GOCC deals with, though, however, is because these are the most righteous men I've ever met in my life. And I've done a lot of stuff to the church, bro. Like, some bad stuff. And, like, they still accept me back. You know what I mean? Genuinely good brothers. That's why I rock with it. Why? I don't think God is sitting here like, statistically and algorithmically, you must, pi. Nah.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with that. It's the heart, fam. So we're sitting here and we're debating things that doesn't matter. Out of the 613 laws, or out of the 10, what did Christ say with only 2 that they could hang everything upon? What was the 2?
Well, let me just deal with the 613. The 613 laws, it was concocted by a man, a rabbi, in the medieval times. Most scholars disagree. There's 313. He added Talmudism to those laws as well. So just to be, fair there. But yes, love your neighbor. Love God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and also love your neighbor as yourself. And these 2 commandments hang all the law. Right. However, when you love God, right? God gave you commandments, right? And in Leviticus 23, it says, "These are my feast days that you should proclaim," right? So,
but you don't need them.
But what I'm saying is this. This is what I'm saying.
This is what I'm saying. If you love the Most High God with all of your heart, with all your strength, with all your might, and you love your fellow brother the same way, that means all of the law is written within your heart, fam.
Yeah.
Okay,
I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. Show me a way that you could love God in action, something that you do, not something that you feel in your heart, an actual action. And you cannot use, well, I treat my brother right, I don't steal, I don't lie, right? That's not a commandment against God necessarily. That's a commandment of violating the second greatest commandment, right? So the first commandment, love the Most High with all your heart, your mind, your soul. We could actually see we would say, okay, how do you love your neighbor? We have 1,000 different ways. Don't lie, don't kill, don't commit adultery against him. Right? Treat him right, respect, right? We could go in through a plethora of conversations and examples of how to keep that particular commandment. But when it comes to loving the Most High, it's almost a blank stare. It's almost like, well, you just, in your heart, you love him. But how do you do it? How do you prove it? Right? Like he told us, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy.
No, you do it.
Right?
You do it.
Right. You remember the Sabbath to keep it holy.
I thought you were finished asking me, but go ahead.
No,
okay.
But what I'm saying is he told us that, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. You could keep that commandment outside of any human interaction. And that's a way, an example. I'm just giving you an example, but I want to hear your example. Another example. How do you could show that you love the Most High through an action?
Oh, very good question. The same way that you love your children. Same way.
Give me an example.
Okay. Do you have to be told by some greater entity than yourself to love what looks like you, that has come from your loins? No, you don't. Even in the scriptures, it says, even wicked men know how to give good gifts to their wicked children. How much better gifts can the Most High give unto those who are the righteous, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So believe it or not, we learn how to love the Most High by him first instilling things within the heavens, right? And then turning things into matter. And we understand that matter comes from, protons, neutrons, electrons, whatever the case may be, if people understand that, chemistry, if you will. And then we magically have something that looks just like us. We're endeared to those individuals because they look like us, and whomever we went half on with this particular child, right? And we just love them immensely. Why? We love them immensely because they are from us, bro. That's why. And we can call, there are atrocities that we might cause on them. There might be heartbreak or whatever the case may be, but we love them. We go in our room. We're like, damn, you know what? I didn't deal with her wisely. I should have been better. That's God's way of showing us how to love Him. That's why.
But you notice
every
single time I ask you that question, you go back to the human component. Like, for instance, do you eat pork?
It has to be the human component.
Well, let me ask you, do you eat pork?
Sometimes, yes, I do actually. Rarely, but sometimes I do.
Okay.
And here's the thing that you have to understand. I have the wherewithal to understand if I eat pork, because I did some studies within pork that based off of our DNA, right, and our anatomy system, you will die if you consume too much of it. Just like a lot of black people or people of color,
but
right?
You notice, right?
Hold on.
Let me finish. Let me finish here. I hear where you're going. When was the last time?
Why can Asian people eat pork and like not die prematurely?
Right, but let me ask you a question.
You do know that is the number one animal that they consume in Asia, right?
Right, but that's not where I want to try to go.
But if we consume it,
right,
it causes dystrophy within us.
Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you killed somebody?
Never.
When was the last time you stole, millions and thousands and quadrillion dollars from somebody? When was the last time you stole?
Never, but I've stolen from people.
Right.
I've stole.
Right. But you notice
not millions and quadrillions.
Yeah, but do you notice?
But it's still stealing.
Yeah, but do you notice that when you deal with human interaction, stealing, lying, cheating, adultery, no one argues that that's wrong, right?
Okay, I agree.
When you're dealing with something that God wants you to do, and yes, it is for your own good. Yes, all the studies have shown that if you eat certain food, doctors are telling you it's not healthy for you. It decreases the quality of your life, right? Even there's certain laws like you should not mix with flax and woolen clothing together because science has showed that it does.
Your body can't breathe well.
Your body.
Yeah, I know. Like I'd be like, I used to have silk sheets, bro.
Right.
I wake up sweating.
Right.
I get cotton sheets, and I'm like, man, I can breathe, no sweat.
Right.
So you feel me? So
yeah.
these are causations.
But exactly. But why is it there is, and maybe it is there when you're dealing with Sabbath and calendars and Passovers and dietary laws, there is it comes over me. I don't know if it comes over you or I want to hear others, like religious, fanatical. It has a negative condescending. And it's supposed to be the same
connotation.
Connotation. Thank you. But you never see people feeling a certain kind of way when it talks about human interaction, love, don't hate, don't hold any grudge. It seems very noble, but it seems very non-noble when you're saying, "Hey, I got to keep the Sabbath," and it gets always challenged with, "Well, brother, that's important, but do you love your brother? Do you stole from your brother?" It's like the second commandment has become more important than the first commandment. That's how I feel sometimes.
Okay, okay, hold on. I feel where you're going. Do you even know why the Sabbath was even commanded in the first place? The Sabbath is a day of what?
Rest.
Finish my sentence. Thank you. What do we all long for?
Rest.
Thank you.
Okay, so
See, that's what it. No, I'm just saying. No,
right.
That's what it's about.
So you're saying
Like real talk. Everybody, we all want rest, bro. Life is hard.
I got you,
Gabar.
but I hear what you're saying.
Everybody,
but is it?
you understand? No, hear me. Well, if you understand what I'm saying, let me finish this then.
Go ahead, finish
if you understand what I'm saying, let me finish this. We all want rest. We all want peace. We all desire solitude.
Yeah.
How come we don't have it? How come we don't have it? Well, see, all the seventh day. Listen, all the seventh day is that's God reminding us, like, listen, man, just like how you put your iPhone on the charger, you got to charge it. You feel me?
Yeah.
Try to use your cell phone, bro, without putting it back on the charger and see what happens. What's going to happen?
So
it's going to go what?
Right.
Dead.
But you're proving my point.
Thank you.
You're proving my point in the sense that when we start dealing with the laws of God, specifically that he said, these are my days, these are my feast days, these are my diet, this is what I want you to do to honor me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has a less, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It's like it's less importance. And all I'm saying is I'm not a religious fanatic. I'm not here to try to scare people into follow the right calendar or this move heaven and earth to find the right calendar, because I'm convinced we're probably not going to find it until Christ get here. But I want to have a mature
I agree on that.
I want to have a mature conversation about something. And sometimes when it comes to certain things that we can prove, or there's contradictions, or there's issues that we cannot get a sure answer, we always lean back to the second commandment. And I wonder if God did that intentionally, meaning maybe God made it harder to us to find certain things in how to worship him, right? Because he wants us to focus on the second commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. Does that make sense? Like, we're not going to find the Torah unadulterated, the right. We've been arguing about this every single year. I mean, if you go to the Jews in Africa versus the Jews in Europe versus the Jews in India, in America, everybody's arguing about the calendar, what's the proper way to keep the Sabbath and all that. And I think that was lost, and I think it is lost. I think we should seek it from a perspective that we don't stretch each other out.
You have to be righteous in mind.
Yeah,
you have to be righteous in mind. That's what. But listen.
Right.
Like, I'll say this all day and day. You're a more righteous man than I am, and I believe that Elder recalls. He's one of the most righteous men that I've ever met. I've said bad shit about him to his face. Well, not to his face, over the phone. And when I needed help, he still helped me.
He's a good guy. He's definitely a good guy. There's no.
This is what I'm saying. He's a better guy than me combined. How about that one?
Right.
See?
Right. So.
And you're my brother. I rock with you, but bro, no. Listen,
Trent. Hold on. Listen, Trent. I'm running a show here. Let me finish the comment.
Bro,
here.
this is.
I hear you. And for those people,
but that's what it comes down to, fam. You really think God cares about my people know the calendar or not?
Yes, I hear what you're saying, brother. But this is the reason why I had to get away from the Christian church, because that's the answer for everything. Let's just stay stupid. Let's just not have a conversation, right? Let's just not do anything, because nothing matters, right? The only thing that matters, and we're not even doing the thing that we keep saying it matters, treating our brother with respect, and treating our brother with some honor. Don't lie, don't steal from them, right? We're not even doing that. And we're trying to have a conversation about the calendar. That's all. Can we chew gum and walk in the same time? Can we do two things at the same time? And all I'm saying, brother, I hear you. So. Because it's like this. You know, one thing that gets me pissed off? When we have a conversation about something, trying to figure something out, and it never fails. It never fails. There's always one person that comes up and say, well, all we need is love. brother, this doesn't matter.
Well,
All we
because
need
that's
is
the answer.
we
Well, that is
do
the
we
answer,
do
bro.
know is the answer.
I
But
mean, you telling me how is that not the answer,
listen to what I'm
Gabar?
saying.
Like
Listen to what I'm
real
saying.
talk,
Listen to what
man.
I'm saying.
You
Listen to what I'm saying.
okay? All right, I'm gonna listen.
Sometimes people use that word because they don't have an answer. And if you don't have the answer, right? Yeah, shut the hell up and listen. But sometimes when people don't have the answer, they'll belittle it. They would start saying, that is important. You know what's important? This is important. That's not important. This is important.
Well, give me an example on that.
So the thing
Like,
that
give me an example,
okay.
because I do think that love is where it's at. But you got to like you're saying. People come and say, well, all we need is love. And you say, well, someone is trying to extricate an ideology of something like this needs to be dealt with.
Using the word love to ease the tension. Sometimes it's used to ease the tension. I get it. But sometimes let me finish my thought. I'm gonna bring it home. Right. But sometimes it's used to dismiss the person who's asking a question, and because the person does not know the answer. So let me belittle the question by putting something that no one will ever argue is the most important thing, love, which half the world's not doing anyway, and including the person that is calling in and saying, all we need is love. You get what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is sometimes people use that just to like kind of pass the baton and not really have a conversation. And I think it's a time for everything.
Well, because people don't have answers to everything,
I know, but what
right?
but listen, my
Bro,
purpose.
Right, if I ask you, hold on. Let me ask you a question. If I say, Gabar, man, tell me what I got to do, lead me in the right direction. Give me anywhere between 3 and 5 words. What would you tell me?
Well, it all depends on the individual. It all depends on the individual.
See,
but if you want to go like a universal,
that's not true. That's not true, bro. Listen, you was in the 9th grade, you was in the 10th grade, you was in the 11th grade, you was in the 12th grade. Yeah. You went through junior high, just like all of us, and we all had the same textbooks. Yes or no?
Well, for the most part.
Okay.
Some are better than others.
Okay. Yes. All right. For the most part, right? So what I'm saying is that worked when we were younger, and you had to run your ass around a track for 1 mile in PE, whether you liked it or not, and it kept your body what? Intact. Most people, as soon as they got out of high school, their bodies, their mindset fell off. Why? They weren't reading the books any longer, and they didn't have anyone over them to tell them run a mile once a week. See?
Okay,
That's what I'm trying to say, fam.
I'm getting conversations or texts says we're getting off topic. Brother Trent, I love you. I hope you're doing well. I know you know, people know by now. You may have some people that don't know. But I know you're doing with some struggles and you're working that out. I love it. We'll talk later, brother. And let me finish this show because I got there's a lot of things I want to focus on. That I don't want to go south. We'll talk later. All right, there it is, brother Joseph Trent Cameron. Go ahead. So I want to show a video because, like I said, I want to have this conversation about the calendar because I don't want people to get I don't want this to be a stumbling block if they come across this, if that makes sense. I don't want this to become a stumbling block if they come across this. Those that follow the Enoch Calendar, which I love, by the way. I like the Enoch Calendar. I think it's the most simplistic one of all of them. I think it's the best one to keep. It's the best one to utilize. So I'm just doing this not to criticize it, but to get in front of it in regards of people that may criticize people that keep the Enoch Calendar. This is going to be a problem, and I want you people to be prepared, right? So I want to play this video, fair use, in regards of a theory that people have come up with why the Enoch calendar is a day too short. Fair use.
The Earth's axis of rotation, or the wobble effect. Let's begin by talking about the Earth's axis. The Earth rotates on an axis. The axis is tilted at an angle of 23.5 degrees. The Earth rotates around its axis once a day. The tilt of the axis affects when seasons occur. When the axis tilts toward the sun, the northern hemisphere experiences summer, while the southern hemisphere experiences winter. In half a year, the Earth will revolve elliptically counterclockwise around the sun, while the axis stays tilted at 23.5 degrees. When the axis tilts away from the sun, the northern hemisphere then experiences winter, and the southern hemisphere experiences summer. The axis of rotation, also known as the wobble effect. The Earth's axis has an axis of rotation, and, just like a top, the axis spins. The angle does not change, only the direction of the axis. The axis of rotation will complete a full cycle approximately every 26,000 years. Therefore, in 13,000 years, the occurrence of the seasons will be opposite than it is from this year.
Therefore, in 13,000 years, the occurrence of the seasons will be opposite than it is from this year.
After 26,000 years, the axis of rotation will have completed a full cycle, and the occurrence of the seasons in the Earth's orbit will start over. In relation to the stars, the Earth's axis currently points toward the star Polaris. Due to the axis.
Now, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link below, and you guys can take a look at it and things of that nature. So I know it goes in 17,000 years, and there is a this earth is 6,000 years old according to biblical principles. However, though, there is some theory and that or there are some scriptures that gives the illusion or the perception that there was something formed before Adam here on earth, that the earth was being reformed. But that's a whole different lesson together, and so forth, so on. There's arguments that perhaps there are pre-Adamites and things of that nature. So I'm open for everything, because at this point, we have to open the floodgates of having a mature conversation. And everybody has to understand that none of this is dealing with salvation, right? This is not salvation driven. This is not in any way tied to the crown that you're going to receive when Christ get here if you do good works. But I know from experience, right, that, and let me just put 2 seconds, folks. I'm going to put the Zoom link, below for those that would like to join in. I saw somebody earlier today, and maybe you guys could come back in on that Zoom link if those that want to come in the Zoom link. Let me just take this out. Okay, let me take this out. There you go. What is this? Shout out to Brother Daniel in the house. It says, read Enoch, great mind things alike. Read Enoch chapter 80, verse 1 through 8, and Isaiah 24 and 23. The Strong's confound ashamed. Okay. I know Enoch 80, it goes into that the earth is going to get dislodged. And the angel Uriel warned Enoch that in the last day, that all the moon that the moon is going to get dislodged and the season is going to get off season, and things of that nature. So, okay. So I have the link, and those who want to come in through the Zoom. Anybody from Man Going God's Way, you're more than welcome to come in if you have any question in particular. Because I want to, let's see here, and let me just do this to make sure that I have, I could see everybody coming in. Hi, so I could see everybody coming in. Let me do this. Okay. All right, perfect. So, because I think with certain doctrinal understanding that we have, and specifically in worshiping the Most High God, right? Things that has nothing to do with how you treat your fellow man, the second commandment, right? Because I think earlier somebody said that the first 4 commandments we have to follow. The first 4 commandments is directly dealing with the Most High, right? And the first one is you should have no other. Well, actually, the technical first one is, I am the Lord that brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of bondage. Thou should not have any gods before thee. Thou should not make into thee any graven image, no bow down to them, and so forth, so on. Thou should not take the name in vain. Remember to honor your father. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy, and honor your father and honor your mother. I think it's those 4. The Sabbath, do not take the name in vain. Do not make any graven image. Do not make, nor need to bow down to them, and so forth. So these are 4 commandments or 4 sayings that was described before you even any interaction with the human race. And sometimes certain things like the feast days gets difficult because we don't have a lot of data. We don't have a lot of data. The Roman Catholic Church and others has kept a lot of data in the archives. They don't want to let things go. I'm pretty sure there could probably be a book out there that kind of explains it. But there's issues. Like, for instance, and I wanted to go back. Let me go here on the scriptures, right? Because if we continue with the 364 and don't alter it, right? It says, this is Exodus chapter 12, right? It says, this month shall be unto you the beginning of month. It shall be the first month of the year to you, right? So this is actually, and I believe it is the month of Abib, right? Let me see if I can find it here. 2 seconds, folks. The month of Abib, I believe it's in Deuteronomy. Let me get the cross-reference real quick. Let's see here. The month of Abib, I think the cross-reference is, you should keep the feast on 11 days. You should eat on 11 bread. The Bib. Right, here we go. So let me switch over here. So Leviticus 23 verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at evening is the Lord's Passover. Number 28:16. And in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of the Lord. Deuteronomy 16 verse 1. Observe the month of Abib, and to keep the Passover unto the Lord thou God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thou God brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt. Now, when we went after captivity, the month of Abib, we began to change the names. The first month became the month Nisan. So, like in the book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 7, it says, in the first month, that is the month Nisan. So after we went to Babylon, we began to change the names of the month. In the 5th year of the reign of Artaxerxes, they cast Pur, that is the lot, before Haman, that was the Edomite, this guy's related to Alexandria, because when you go into, he was a Gaggite, Alexandria, when you go into the Apocrypha, it calls him a Syrian, I believe. Call him a Macedonian. There you go. It calls him a Macedonian. And when you go into the Greek Bible or the Greek the Apocrypha, it also called Alexander the Great, and also the Philip of Alexandria, Macedonian. So Haman was also a Macedonian, but that was another name for Edomites during that time. So that kind of gives us a window or a connection, right? Haman from day to day, and from the month to the 12th month, that is the month Adar. So when you look at like Jewish calendar, sometimes they have 2 Adars, because every 3 or 4th year they got to add an extra month because the lunar comes out too short. So I'm not knocking the lunar. I'm not knocking the Enoch. Whatever you want to follow is up to you. I like the Enoch. I think there's some concerns. I think we should add a week every 7th year, the year Jubilee, to stay within instinct, or stay the same. Either or, it doesn't matter. It won't bother me one way or the other. And the only reason why is because we will get out of sync. If God commanded that when you go into the word Abib, into the Strongs, I believe is when the corn is coming out. Let's see, here's H24 Abib. It says fresh young barley, when the barley's coming out. The ear, when it's first coming out, that's the month when you start noticing, that's during the springtime. It says month of ear forming or green, of crops of growing greens, Abib, the month of Exodus and Passover, March or April. Okay, so it all depends on what calendar you follow. And the reason why I want to have this conversation is because, especially man going God's way, that may be a issue, right? That's why I keep saying man going God's way is not a church. We are a religious organization, but we're not a church. But the way you worship your God is up to you. Yes, we could come together and so forth, so on. But in regards of, having a closer understanding, and it's okay to search. It's okay to care. It's okay to figure it out. But just make sure that you stay a sound mind and do not start getting fanatical about your doctrine, because you may be wrong. I always tell people, do not fall in love with a doctrine that you may have to walk away. Brother Darrell says the calendar was to keep no commandments, to object it because sin has corrupt the seasons. It may seem off, but it's because the world is off. You're right, and that goes back to the book of Enoch in chapter 80, because it says that the world's going to get dislodged. And then I want to show the video that sometimes the earth gets out of its rotation. So that could also be the explanation too. But I'm pretty sure there is a book that is out there that God sent an angel to prophesy to one of the prophets to deal with that earth rotation. I don't know how to deal with it. I could only speculate and so forth, so on. But I just want people to understand that, the solar calendar has issues, but also does the Enoch calendar has issues. But whatever calendar you follow, it's okay. Do not get discouraged, or don't look down on other people. Don't say, hey, brother, this is Babylonian, or this, that, or this, or that. Or this is, worship of the sun if you deal with the Enoch, worship of the moon if you're dealing with this. I think those are combative conversations that doesn't help us, and especially what's going on dealing with the world today. Because, ultimately it is, what is important is love your neighbor as yourself, love the Most High with all your mind, your soul, and also love your neighbor as yourself. So all of it matters, but we have to look at it objectively. We cannot ignore it because even, we may have to defend this against, who knows, Muslims or Egyptologists and so forth, so on, or atheists, right? We need to be dogmatic about this and do not allow us to, our faith gets challenged, right? Because a lot of people will say, well, if God is God Almighty, why he allowed us to be in a situation that we are confused about the calendar? Why he cannot make it, right, and so forth, so on, right? So, and like I said before, wait a minute. Let me see, I got this right. Oh, yeah, it's over here. I'm sorry, guys. Let me just fix this real quick. No. Okay. And, I've been there. I've been when these little things drives me crazy to the point that it's, I won't say testing my faith, but I have seen this test other people's faith, right? So I wanted to kind of have a conversation about it because I never had this conversation with anybody when I was with GOCC in an open scenario, right? But there's argument for the both. And there was a time when the Hebrew Israelite community in the ancient times were keeping different calendars because they did not agree on the same calendar. That is true as well. 2 seconds, folks. Let me just do one thing here. Where is the hand? I could see. Okay, let me just. It's a little blurry, so I just got to fix a little bit. 2 seconds. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Much better. Okay. So if anybody wants to call in, if anybody has a question outside of Trent, I love you, but let's bring other people in because I want to hear other people to point. Have they come across this? Have they have a better explanation than I'm giving? I'm not giving much of an explanation, but I just want to talk to the people about this calendar because every year on the Passover these things come up and so forth, so on. And I want everybody to enjoy the Passover, whatever calendar they're following, and without these distractions or being unconscious about these things. So the number is 267-358-0879. If you want to call in, you're more than welcome. Or call in through the Zoom if you want to come in through the Zoom. But study to show thyself approved. That's extremely important. And the things that you are sure about and is salvation driven and is it was said by Christ himself and so forth, so on. Let's not compromise that. But let's not get, too, what's the word I'm looking for? Comfortable with the stuff that we don't know or clear. Let's not get comfortable with not keeping the Sabbath. Let's not get comfortable with, sometimes eating a little pork. All due respect to Brother Trent, that's, I'm going back to 30 years now. I haven't touched the swine because the way I look at it is this. It's simple to follow. Daddy does not want us to eat it. The Heavenly Father. It's the least we could do for him. Whether pork gets you sick or not, that is insignificant to me. He doesn't want us to eat it, so that's the way I could show obedience to him. And it's easy, right? There's certain times that, I want to rationalize in my mind, I got to go do something in the Sabbath and yada, yada, yada. I try not to get caught up with that as much as possible, right? And sometimes it's hard in this society. And sometimes you are forced to do certain things on the Sabbath because of work related or whatever. Some people have to, work. Some people, get off work late, right? And you're still driving on the Sabbath, still working on the Sabbath, still coming in tired and got to buy something. I get it. We're not in our in our country or in our government. We have visitors here. We are refugees. We in the diaspora. So we have to, we have to try to do our best what we have. But I get it. But sometimes people begin to minimize the importance of these things because sometimes it's hard, or we're in a circumstance that we cannot do it, or we're in a circumstance that we attempted to do it. Like eating a little this, eating a little that, and we start thinking, God doesn't care about that. I disagree with that. I think that's the devil talking. God cares about everything because it is the measure of whether you love God. Love, if you love me, you will keep my commandment. When you go into God's spirit and how he operates, it was always through actions. We create this feeling reality that is not tangible. It's not, you can't grab it, you can't taste it, you can't weigh it, you can't measure it. We live in a third dimensional place, and I think when I read the Bible, yes, Christ dealt with the sincerity of things, because you're right. You could follow the law to the letter, the actual action, but if your heart hates your brother without a cause, you're guilty of them all. You're still committing sin. So we have to create a balance. Moses brought in the literal. Christ brought in the spirit. We have to find a balance in somehow. But when it comes to certain things that we can't find the literal law, we don't know how to keep the literal law. We got to keep searching. Don't get discouraged. Make a decision. Follow something, because I believe these feasts are important, and I believe keeping these feasts in the right season are important, although we don't have the books that tell us in detail the issue between the 164 versus the 165. I believe it's out there. Obviously, you could find some of the ancient writings of the Hebrew Israelite, like the second book of Enoch. They mentioned the 365, but to correlate that, it didn't say how to correlate that, right? Because, and just because something contradicts, it doesn't mean there's not another book that has not been found that will give you the answer, that will give you past that crack in your armor. But we have the gospel, and that is the most important thing. We have the gospel. We have the foundation to everlasting life. But even Christ, when the young man told Christ, what should I do to have everlasting life? And he said, keep the commandments. Notice that Christ even acknowledged the foundation is the commandments. And then when the young man told him, what else do I lack? The word lack means I'm missing something. I'm not replacing what I have already. I need to add to what I have already. And he said, well, sell your riches and follow me, and I will give you sevenfolds or what have you, right? And he went away being sad because he was not willing to let go of his riches, right? But he didn't say the law is not important. The law is done away with. Just follow me. Have faith. That's not what Christ says. He says, this is what you're lacking. You're lacking faith. Because why? He had all his faith, all his trust on what? His riches. And that's what I'm saying, folks. And we need to have these conversations in a way that we can objectively and soundly have these mature conversations. And the conversation, or the what's happening here, is that we do not know for sure why scientifically speaking, and I believe that it's been proven and eventually will be proven, the longer we keep the 364, that we're going to get off season. Does it matter? Maybe not. And maybe you're right. Maybe God did that to see how faithful we are, how faithful we're going to be to God's word, that he put the earth out of its access, out of his where it's supposed to be. He shift, right? Alignment, it's not right, and things are coming all out of whack to keep us in a faithful scenario. Now, people need to understand that even the time and where we're supposed to keep the Passover, it's not even supposed to be in foreign land in regard to keeping it correctly. We're supposed to follow the calendar from Jerusalem. And that's the place where we're supposed to keep the calendar. So we're going to be off even if we keep it here, because sometimes when you look at the Israel's like about 6 or 7 hours in front of us. So when people used to keep the feast day, people used to go over there. That's why that in the scripture it says that from one new moon to the next and from one Sabbath to the next, all flesh will come before me. Where? In Jerusalem. Right? So we have to, I want to kind of have this conversation because sometimes people will ask these questions, and I wanted to kind of give the answer from a perspective of like, you know what? And brothers Shakman, Shakman, I probably botched that name. I apologize. Colossians 2:16, let no man therefore judge you in meats or in drinks or in respect of a holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days. Now, I want to, let me put that up. And I'm glad you mentioned that scripture, brother. Because people, usually have, they use that scripture in regards of when it comes to when there is a debate about properly keeping these feast days. And somebody will say, well, brother, let no man judge you in these feast days. Like, you're not allowed to criticize somebody whether or not you keep in feast days. That's not what the scripture, I believe, is saying. Now, I want to show you guys, let me turn the camera here to the scriptures, right? And let me put this a little bigger so you guys can see it. Okay. Let me put it one more. Boom. Perfect. Let me just, okay. So Colossians 2:16. Now, when you look at Colossians 2:16, right, and you look at chapters and so forth, so on. Now, you have to always look at periods. See, it's a period here. You got different columns or colons and exclamation points and questions and things of that nature. This is very important because it gives you the idea when a thought is finished, right? I believe that the people who put the number system in the chapters and verse system did a mistake by separating verse 16 and 17, because 16 and 17 belongs in the same thought process. When you hear the semicolon, when you see these two dots here, that means that the sentence that we're about to hear or read is connected to the sentence we just read. It's connected. And you notice that it is a dot here. It's a dot here in chapter 15, and it's a capital L. That means it's a new sentence. It's a new thought. And the thought ended not at the end of verse 16, but it ended in the verse 17. So when you combine both verses together, it reads a little different. Let me read, and it reads as follows. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or in respect of a holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. Now let's the word judge, right? And we go to the word judge here in the Strong's, right, is G2916, where it could be call in question, to separate, to put asunder, to put out, select, choose, to approve, esteem, to prefer, to be of opinion, right? To think, to be of opinion, right? Decree. It is making a decision about something, right? It's like, that's wrong, that's right, right? And the word judge has been translated as to judge, determine, condemn, go to law, call in question, esteem, right? So it could mean different things, but it's all associated with you making a decision about something. You're good, you're bad, you're free, you're gonna, 25 to life, sentence you to life, sentence you to go to probation, release you. Judgment could just be several things, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily one thing. So I'm saying that to say this, that over here, I would say the word judge is criticize you in meat. So let no man criticize you in meat. But what are they criticizing you in? It doesn't dictate. So if he says, let therefore no man judge you in meat or in drink, the judge could be they're judging you because you are keeping the Sabbath, or they're judging you because you're not keeping the Sabbath. Both of them are correct grammatically. When you add verse 17 to verse 16, it says, which are, let no man judge you in the feast days, Sabbath, and the new moon, which are a shadow of things to come. What this means? Means we're going to be doing these feast days in the kingdom. There are a shadow of things to come. So when Paul was writing to the people in the Colossians, he was writing to them about people that were criticizing them for keeping the dietary laws. And the meats and drinks is synonymous with the feast days and things of that nature. Or in respect of a holy day, which is a Sabbath, or a Passover, or of the new moon. Now the new moon, we understand, is Kodash, which means to reborn or to make new. And the book of Jubilee, it explains that the Kodash, we keep it 4 times a year, not every new moon. Or the Sabbath day, which are a shadow of things to come. So what this means, a shadow of things to come, we're going to be doing it in the future. We're going to be doing it in the kingdom. That's why let no man criticize you for doing the feast days, because they are a shadow of things to come. That makes sense, guys? So that scripture is the one that is encouraging everyone to do the feast day, and let no man criticize you, because we're going to do them in the kingdom. Isaiah 66:23. It says, and it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, says the Lord. Right? And so all flesh will come before the Most High from one new moon to the next, right? And this is going to happen in the future. Verse 22, for as the new heavens and the new earth, which I shall make, shall remain before me, says the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to the other, and from one Sabbath to the other, shall all flesh come before to worship, right? Before me to worship, says the Lord. So we're going to keep these feast days according to the scriptures, right? We're going to keep these feast days in the kingdom, right? And we keep these feast days in the best of our abilities. We come together with our families, and we have our feast days, and we keep that day holy, set apart, right? We have, let's go to another scripture. Zechariah 14, I believe, verse 14 and 12. From you to keep. Okay, here we go. 14 and 12. Let's see what that says, right? Let me try to take my, okay. Sometimes this thing doesn't let me go out. Okay, here we go. So here we go, right? So I'm in verse 16 of the book 14 of Zechariah. It shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, which is Christ, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the feast of tabernacle. See, let no man judge you, because they are a shadow of things to come. So Paul was talking to the believers not to allow the non-believers to judge them for keeping these feast days, because they were living in a pagan world. All of it is important. I know we're living under grace because we're living under captivity. We are not free. We're not in the world that we're supposed to live in. We're not in the place we're supposed to live in. We don't have a country. We don't have a governance. Satan rules this world, and we're trying to, live in this world the best of our abilities. But these conversations we need to have maturely, and as Christians, as Bible believers, we have to admit that there's certain information that is lost. And until Christ gets here, it's going to be constantly lost. So I just want everybody to, whatever time they're keeping the Sabbath, right? Whatever time they're keeping their Passover. It's, if you were the brother that is a good brother and may keep the Sabbath different, the Passover different, right? I don't know when the Lunar Calendar folks are keeping the Passover this year, right? When is the Passover coming up this year? Let me see here. Passover 2023 date. It says Passover day this year. Print, you're free. Okay. Let's see here. So I believe this year it says evening Wednesday, April 5th is the Passover, dealing with the lunar calendar. They deserve respect too. They deserve honor and respect, and not belittle them and start saying, these are pagans, that's Babylonian, right? You're going Avak, right? We got to get away from this fanatical scenario. So people that keep the Passover during the lunar this year lands on April 5th, right, through April 13th, right? And I won't, and usually when it's in April, it means that year is a leap year. This year is probably a 13 calendar year, because it usually lands around April. And it's okay. We have to just be mature about this and understand that we don't know. We don't know. We don't know for sure. We are picking up the pieces now. We are now part of the valley of the dry bones, waking up, and we're trying to make sense of it all. It says, as long as you trying to do the, let me see, brother, the word, let's see what his brother said. It says, I always like you guys bringing in your thoughts. It says, long as you trying to do the holy days and not the holidays, I think that matters. I salute the brothers and sisters that do their different days and shows love, but leaders need to sit down and get the right one. Yeah, it would be nice if all the leaders could come together and come up with some collusion, but that's what it comes down to. That's what I was saying, maturity. Sometimes these leaders get dogmatic with their doctrine because they, I think, sometimes feel threatened by saying, I don't know. We don't know that information yet. Sometimes it's okay to say, this is the best what we got right now, and so forth, so on. I'm comfortable where people say, you know what, we can't keep any feast days until Christ get it right. Okay. I'm not knocking that hustle either. Everyone should seek their own salvation with fear and trembling. Share with other like-minded people your thoughts without being judgmental. Right? Brother Word says, how we, a nation, but not praying and fasting on the same day. The book only says one thing on, and they all connect. Joshua, Jubilee, and other records have not wiser than the fathers. And you're right. Listen, man. There are books mentioned in the Bible that has not been discovered yet. There are books mentioned in the Bible that are lost to history or is being hidden by someone. The Bible is not a complete book. It's a collection of books put together. Biblios, books, plural. But what we have to thank the Father is that Christ, the gospel, survived. No one is arguing what is the gospel. And what is the gospel? It's simple. In the Old Testament, right, for you to be forgiven for certain sins, you have to present a sacrifice. Other sins, like adultery, breaking the Sabbath, homosexuality, murder, bestiality, worshiping other gods, were punishable by death, period. So there was no room for redemption. There was no room for getting it wrong and trying again the next day. Christ brought in grace. What is grace? What is grace? Grace is if you did a law, or you broke a law, that is punishable by death. You did something that there is no redemption for, according to the Torah. Christ amended that law, removed the judgment, and replaced it with grace. What is grace? What is the definition of grace? A second chance, a break. It's not exemption. Grace is not exemption. And that's the problem that I have with the Christian church. That they feel that you don't have to do the Sabbath because we're living by grace. No. If you are in a situation you have to work, or you're in a situation you cannot keep the Sabbath the way you would like to, that's where grace comes in. Or you don't know how to keep the Sabbath. You may be doing certain things wrong. And I think I'm going to be doing the lesson this week, God willing. The Lord class is back. So we're going to be having the Lord class. But I'm going to bring it a little different. I'm not going to be teaching anything with absolute. I'm going to give you my point of view, but I also want to give a point of view from other people. But eventually, we're going to get to some resolution. But I just want you to not only see my point of view, but I also want to show you guys a different point of view, like the calendar. There's a different point of view. And we have to be okay with it. We have to understand that the lunar calendar folks have a point, and the Enoch calendar people has a point. I'll prefer, if we're going to have something that kind of fits both, I will have something with the calendar, the Enoch calendar, And I believe if we add that 7 days or that week every 7th year, I think it will be easier because then we will never get it off sync. And is a calculation that we don't have to look for the moon and the sliver and hoping it's not cloudy that day. And it's because keep it real, if we did not have this technology, right? We and figure it out when the sliver, and we have to just go into, manual labor, manual ascerning or visual manual observance of the sliver. It would be kind of hard. It would be more confusion. So, for people to say, "Oh, the lunar calendar is easy," yeah, it's easy with technology, but try to do it organically. The Enoch calendar, I like it because you could do it once you set it. It could be it's a math game. You just got to add the numbers, so it's easy to follow. And I think if you will ask me, that would be a better way to please both. To please the lunar calendars, to say, well, if you keep the Enoch calendar, you're gonna get off sync after a few years. If you keep the lunar calendar is too hard to keep it without. Look at because this is what we used to do every year. I don't know if you guys still have this app. Remember the moon phase? Remember, it shows you the moon phase. Let me show over here. Let me show you guys. Is it that? Yeah, wait. Is the calendar? Let me see. I don't know if you guys remember the moon phase. And like every day, it gives you rotation. Let me see this. Where is it at? Okay, here we go. Yeah, remember that? Without this, we won't be able to know how to keep the lunar calendar. This is science. This is technology. And if we in the wilderness by ourselves with no phone, how are we going to keep the lunar calendar? That's why I think the Enoch calendar is superior because it's easier to follow. And if you have an issue with getting out of sync, you just got to, the same way you add a month every 3 years dealing with the lunar, you just add a week every 7th year in the year of Jubilee. Makes perfect sense. That will be fine with me as well. Okay, Brother Amory says I can't see. I can't see it. I don't know what you meant, meaning the phone or what I'm saying here. But if you want to call in, you're more than welcome, Brother Emery. If you have any questions. But what I'm saying is that we have to come into this situation of being humble and understand that we don't have all the answers. And you have to accept that somebody's not going to see your point the way it is. Some people may get a different point. People may change. People may say, I keep it this way. There was a doctrine out there that people say, you only gotta not work on the 12 hours of the Sabbath day from sunrise to sunset. Only 12 hours. There's a doctrine out there. There's a brother that I spoke to years ago that he believes that. I'm cool with that. Brother Amber, you could either call through the cell or through the Zoom. I got the Zoom link in the bottom in the description. Either or, you're more than welcome. But we have to look at this from a perspective that eventually, if we want to keep a culture that is without hiccups, because I believe that eventually we have to be set apart, meaning this society is collapsing, right? This society is basically what we are used to, what we are accustomed to is going to change in the next, I would say, 3 to 5 or 6 or 7 years, give or take. I hope it's more like 5 or 6 or 7 or 10, but the way things are going, who knows? I'm looking at what's going on in this campaign with this campaign dealing with 2024, what they're going to do. But who knows? But eventually we need to have a system And they have done studies in regards of the human psyche that we do need anniversaries, meaning we need holidays that something happened and we celebrate. And old culture has it, and we need ours. And if we dismiss it because we have lost the true meaning of the calendar, or the Enoch calendar is correct and we're going to get an off season, and the reason why we get off season because the world is off season, like Brother Darrell said, and we're going to find that out later. Whatever route we go, we need something that we can stick together that it's effective. We need effectiveness. And that's why I like the Enoch calendar. I don't want to let it go, even with all these issues. I don't want to let it go because I like its effectiveness. Okay, Brother Emery says, unless God clearly said no on the things. Okay, so I thought he was mean about something else. But anyway, folks, this is what I want to say. This is not here to test your faith. This is not here for me to make fun of someone or try to throw dots at someone. They're just having a conversation because these things do come up and it's important. And these things do keep us divided, man. It keep us divided. And I would love to have one calendar, a universal calendar. That will keep that will be great. And maybe God is saying, listen, yeah, we had a way of keeping the calendar and that was lost. But when you keep it, it's not as important as how you keep it. Just find a decision or make a decision in when to keep it. Right? Because there is some conversation, and maybe God didn't really give us a calendar like that. He just leave it up to us to figure out on our own, because we are now sitting in motion seats. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. General said. I like the Enoch calendar. I don't want to throw it away, but I want to be honest and objective, open, and being a non-biased. That it has some issues, and that might come up, and the explanation could be the Earth is out of segment, it's out of order. That's the reason why it's not lining up with the calendar that God gave us in the book of Enoch and Jubilee. The book of Jubilee could be wrong in certain aspects and right in others. The book of Jubilee and Enoch could be right, but that answer has not been yet discovered. Whatever you want to go, it's fine. But you should respect your fellow Christian, your fellow believers that is looking to to worship God with fear and trembling without separating you guys. You may have a situation that, you may keep two Passovers. You may keep your Passover the way you keep it, the way, you feel is right. But let's say another brother invites you to another Passover, and maybe you could, use that opportunity to gain a brother. It's okay too. With certain things we have to be mature and objective, right? I said, his salvation says, if it is not a salvation breaking point, we should be able to talk about all topics. Amen. I believe that is 100% true. Great topic or text there. So, folks, in closing, man, I just want to have this quick conversation with you guys. I am looking to have the next meeting with Men Going God's Way. I'm setting up a discourse, so brothers, look out for that. I'm going to be sending you a link. You could download the discourse, and we're going to have our own private Man Going God's Way conversation. And so on. The spring is coming, so it's time to start getting in shape. Although, winter, you should get in shape as well. But make sure that you start preparing for the exercise of Men Going God's Way, because I want to be giving out free T-shirts for those that are able to do the 100 squats under 2 minutes, rest for 30 seconds, do 52 push-ups under 2 minutes, rest for 30 seconds, do 20 chin-ups under 1 minute, no rest, and do planks for 1 minute. You do that, you're fairly in shape. That's the bare minimum in Man Going God's Way in regards of mind, body, and soul. You are fit. You are basically, you have some bottom line fit, and so forth, so on. If you cannot do those things, that means you're basically out of shape. You have to get in shape, and we have to start getting in shape because the war is coming, right? The collapse is coming, right? So make sure you send an email if you want to be part of Man Going God's Way. Is M.G.G.W 144@gmail.com. All the information is in the description. Until next time, folks, I hope you guys are in good spirit. Those that are getting ready for the Passover, enjoy your Passover, enjoy your feast days. Until next time, shalom and peace. And may the Most High watch you and keep you. Shalom.